which is probably the biggest part of our budget, but Medicaid has to be reimbursed into Medicaid programs. You can't use those dollars to supplant in the other direction, or you get lovely fines or you lose your license and audit. We also have state funding, and then we have insurance funding, and then obviously insurances, and then county dollars. That's the other piece of the multi-layer. This funding plays a vital role ensuring that individuals that have mental health disorders or diagnoses have access to services in a timely manner. And regardless of their ability to pay, based on state statutes, we cannot turn anybody away based on their ability to pay. There's a difference between ability to pay and I don't want to pay, but we do offer services. So anybody in crisis is automatically provided that care, no matter what their payer type is, whether they can pay or not. So Dickinson County came on and joined with Saline, Ellsworth, and Ottawa County in 1964, and you guys created us. And we've been around 60 years. And so we also utilize this multi-layer funding to really partner with jails, police, sheriff, schools, first responders, you name it, community partners, because we know those partnerships help those dollars go further and we can serve more individuals. Versus if we tried to do it all on our own, our dollars would be gone much, much quicker. We partner, for example, with community corrections in this area. We offer those individuals that are referred over to us that sliding scale fee, which county dollars support, because we know individuals that have large fines or they are looking for a job and have no income, they have no insurance. We also know that when they do get a job, they have to pay the fines. Maybe there's other things in their life that they have to pay for. Then if they have to focus all of their dollars in their services, then we know they go back to what they normally do to survive, and the process goes over again, and they accumulate more charges and rack up more dollars. So those dollars and partnership that we do with community corrections is we offer those individuals sliding scale fee so that they can access those services at a more economical cost for them. In the investment from Dickinson County this last year, we can continue to serve individuals who otherwise wouldn't have access to care. That helps avoid crisis, keep them out of the emergency room, and reduce the strain on the public safety system. County funding bridges the gap left by insurance and state funding, ensuring our most vulnerable neighbors have access to care. In 2024, we delivered hundreds of essential mental health services to residents of Dickinson County. Even though individuals did provide some partial payments, we provided over $287,000 in services with limited reimbursement, resulting in over 87% of the cost remaining. That means when we say partial payments, we will take $5 or $2, and if that's what they can afford. Our lowest fee is $20. That's the lowest, and it's based on the federal poverty level. And so individuals sometimes can't even afford $20. So if they can even pay the $5 when they come in, or $5 or what they feel they can pay, we take that. And that's where that partial payment comes from. County dollars are critical. Over 10% of Dickinson County residents are uninsured. That means they have no form of coverage. We have a larger portion are underinsured. That means they have a payment or they have an insurance plan, but that insurance plan usually covers medications and therapy. So if they needed specialty services to keep them in their community and their home, you're looking at they have no insurance to cover that. We also know that individuals that have very high insurance out of pocket will never reach that out of pocket because they're so high. We also offer them the sliding scale fee so that they can get access to care. Thanks to the support, we are able to do the care to those individuals. Most of the uncompensated care is for self-pay individuals. So most of those county dollars, a large percent go to pay for those services. Without adequate funding, fewer services will be offered to the uninsured or underinsured. We know that critical interventions could be delayed if crisis is occurring. Early intervention options would be reduced, and fewer justice-involved individuals will have access to the care they need. Really, those unmet needs shift that burden to the counties, hospitals, jails. We asked Dickinson County to invest in care in a crisis. We know that stigma and an ability to afford remain the two biggest barriers for individuals to access care. With adequate county funding, we're able to proactively engage with at-risk populations, which offering preventive services and early intervention services to reduce the likelihood of a mental health crisis escalating over. The support allows us to reach populations that are often underserved. Our veterans, our service members and their families, rural farmers, aging population. Aging population is going to double in 25 years, or probably less than 25 years now. I'll be one of those. Having helped taking care of my dad when my dad lost my mom and several of his friends that he's always been active with, we really noticed that his whole life demeanor and aspect changed. And we had a conversation with his primary care, and my dad suffers some depression with all of the stuff with aging and loss of individuals. And we see more of that in the aging population, and we know that's a population that we're really going to have to focus on in the next few years. Not that we don't already provide care, but we're going to have to really specialize that care. That also includes our farming communities and individuals with complex behavioral health. Many of these critical services fall outside what the normal or traditional funding streams allow, making county investment essential. I've provided our budget proposal down below from the last five years, from 2020 to 2025. Following careful review and discussion by my board, we are formally requesting a 4% increase in county funding. This adjustment would increase the county's per capita investment in behavioral health services from $7.35 to $7.64, which equals an increase of $5,410. While modest, this increase reflects our shared commitment to ensure that vital behavioral health services remain accessible, especially those who are uninsured, underinsured, or involved in crisis. We also recognize the growing demand on our system and the rising cost of providing comprehensive community-based care. Central Kansas continues to act as a safety net provider, absorbing significant losses to ensure no resident is turned away due to inability to pay. Dickinson County's continued support ensures we can respond to crisis, provide the treatment options and care in the community where it's most effective and cost efficient. I did also provide you our annual report. You'll see in the first few pages that we have really begun to focus on partnerships, co-responders, things like that, working with Jerry on what other things we can do to help with the jail, to help individuals reentry into the community when they're released from the jail. Also looking at what will it take for us to build and have some form of co-responder or sustainable support for our first responders, because we know individuals when they're in crisis, the first thing they do is call 911. Whether it's psychiatric, whether it's physical health, whether it's an accident, they're afraid for their life. We know that they call that and they reach out to them. So we are part of a group that also tries to do as much training and education we can to first responders. We're also looking at what we can do to sustain our ability to support the behavioral health or mental health court in the area. We do support and are part of the drug court. We try to make sure that we partner and help any individual that needs mental health services through that referral system. One of the key things that we've done in Saline County that is different from what I've seen co-responders is we actually have started to work with EMT, because they also are facing critical mental health situations when they go out in the field. So those are some of the things that we're looking for in the future, and those are some of the kind of the priorities that we get on. Some other things that we also are now bridging into is our mobile crisis. So we've always provided crisis services 24/7. But that's always been more of that warm phone line, that conversation. And if we can't resolve the issue, we ask you to go to the emergency room. And if the doc, can help you, they will. If not, we'll come in and screen you. Mobile crisis is now about going to where the crisis is. That's why our partnerships are also very important, because we may not know this individual, we may not know the safety of the situation. And so being able to have that partnership with law enforcement will also make that a full partnership to make sure the individual is safe as well as our staff is safe. So our job will be to go where the individual feels they're the safest to address the crisis. That could be their home, that could be a restaurant, that could be a park, you name it. The individual identifies their crisis, and they identify where they want to be served. So that's pretty new for us. In 2024, we served over 5,000 individuals, really almost close to 5,100 individuals. Of those 871 of those individuals were Dickinson County residents. So I just kind of provided that. You're going to see for our financial that we have revenue and expenses. You'll see that a big portion of our revenue does come from Medicaid, and those Medicaid dollars are reimbursed into Medicaid services. Central Kansas cannot get loans. So everything that we've ever built in the 60 years has been out of pocket. We've saved, we invested, and so we are in a good place right now, as you look at our revenue and our expenses, that we have a healthy bottom line, but those dollars are being reinvested currently. We purchased a new building. I made the financial decision not to go with a big $15 million building, but we invested in a smaller building, and we'll be moving our youth services over to that building because that is an area of growth for us. And I have used every nook and cranny in our building. I took away a break room. I took away files. Thank goodness everything's scanned into a computer now, because now I have where all the files were set. I have desks in there. And so that revenue that we've made is being reinvested in that new building so that we can continue to provide care and develop programs. So it may look like a great bottom line, but those dollars will be reinvested because we can't take loans to reinvest in services. So do you guys have any questions?
Sure. Well, I think it's interesting sometimes as we move on through society that when you pull up to these fast eating establishments to get a burger or something, one of the signs hanging in the window, it says, please do not treat our people unkindly. And when would you have ever seen a sign like that posted? You know what I'm saying? Seriously, right here in town, it's the same way. You pull up, place an order to go, for example, and there's a little sign that says, behave. It's kind of remarkable. So that may be a challenge that we're seeing as you're talking about mental health that's going on in society.
We know that as the more you know, that, people need to understand mental health issues. When it becomes a big issue is when you can't live the life you want to live. There's a lot of people that suffer tragedy and have mental health issues out there, but they've learned to manage them. It's those individuals that may need that little bit more help so they can start living the life they want to live. That's where we come in to support them and do that. And sometimes individuals will that's where that stigma comes in, that if they walk through our door, they're not going to be stigmatized that they're crazy. I just tell people that's a form of my personality. So, one of those things is getting and breaking down that stigma. And I think we've done a good job. We have a ways to go, but you see it so much in the news now with really sports stars themselves coming out and saying they've dealt with their mental health issues for years, to where I think we're seeing an increase in people wanting to get help. We're just not quite there yet.
I'm pretty go ahead. Wait. I had gotten an email just the other day, and our Congressman Tracy Mann he identifies like a ag hero, and someone that's done something with great success and so on. And usually it involves someone that has a big operation, farming wise and so on. And this past month, and some of it I think it was because of maybe Mental Health Awareness Month. He identified an individual out at Hayes that teaches at Fort Hays State. And his story was when he was in grade school, he remembers, I think it was the day or two before Christmas, the knock on the door from the sheriff to evict them off the farm. And the interest rates were 20%. And it had such an impact on him. And he went into psychology and mental health care. And now he's a professor at Fort Hays State. And maybe you read the article, or you probably wouldn't know him if I mentioned the name.
Training from him.
Okay, but he started a gathering with rural people. And at first, they kind of trickled in. He didn't, but as it's grown here in recent years, I guess sometimes he speaks to 300 people. And part of the reason I mentioned that is, there's an example of where some good PR or getting the information out, but also the group of rural people, and we're a very rural community here, that, all walks of life and all people that live in a county and a city, there's needs out there. And so anyway, it's a great partnership that Dickinson County has with the other counties. And I know you have an office here.
You have an office.
Make calls
Yeah.
in Harrington and all over.
Yeah, Harrington, unfortunately, we do not have the office in Harrington anymore. It's been gone for many years. I've looked to see what it would take for us to have an office there. It's been difficult to find.
But you have someone drive down there. We have someone that's.
Yeah, we have case
in the groups
that are constantly in all our catchment areas.
Mhm.
And then we have an outreach office for access to a therapist in all our counties too. Abilene just happens to be our second largest. Salina obviously is our largest. Abilene's our second largest office. And when you speak of farmers, when you look at the data on suicide rates, they're the first to second highest commit suicide in that field. And so we have been trying every spring to go out and get into the co-ops and get the conversation started. We did a resilience. There was a grant for Ottawa County and Lincoln County. And there was a gentleman that came and said, "You're just going to have to get us oldies on board." That was his words. "You're going to have to get us oldies on board because we come from a different mindset."
Don't talk about it.
Yeah, don't. My dad, when I asked my dad, he said, "You didn't talk about those things. You just worked the farm and you figured it out." And so when you bring that up, that is huge. That's one of the areas that has been most difficult probably to get going. But my crisis team is really on board on where we're going to take a bunch of water and we're going to take, we call it swag, but it's just information that has our name, our numbers, how to get a hold of us if you need us. But in reality, it's also reaching out to their pastors, their primary care docs, because that's who they talk to. And so making sure that they know that we're here. So that's where some of those dollars go to. We try to find as many grants as we can. We have a couple suicide prevention grants, and that's what we use those grants for, is to really go out. Unfortunately, those grants do not pay for staff. And so we use those grants to actually buy things to see if we can get people engaged. So.
Obviously, your continued operation of what you're doing is very important. I'm pretty excited about your partnership with the sheriff. I know that that's an area of concern for the county. It's been brought up a few times since I've started this job. So I'm excited to see what that partnership does, and I think it will help a lot. So I'm excited to see that continue. And I think you guys started getting a partnership together, right?
When I was a case manager 20 some odd years ago, actually, I worked with Jerry on a couple cases because,
Sure.
it just happened to be that way. Everybody always thinks we're related. We're not. Because my maiden name was Davis. His.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And so, But that's always been my passion about those partnerships. Probably the center was so enmeshed in just delivering care, mental health, and it was really in four walls. Our case managers went out and dealt with things, but we really didn't deal or partner a lot at that time. And I think in the last probably 10 plus years, our partnerships have just bloomed because we know those dollars go further. It means community corrections dollars go further and our dollars go further if we can meld them. But the sheriff, mental health courts, drug courts, all of those are going to be critical. And I'm anxious to see how that data tells the story about the work. So, yeah.
Likewise, I'm excited to see, I think you guys can do some good work in that arena. So I'm pretty excited to see that happen.
Mine too. It's a lot of work, but we love it.
Doesn't disregard what you currently do. So I don't want to.
No,
as if
not
that's
saying it like that at all. No. Mental health, you'll wake up the next day and it'll be a little bit different. So that's just the reality. And so partnerships are key. It's always been, we don't treat mental health, it's got to be treated as a community because it affects all aspects of the community.
Absolutely. Any other comments, commissioners?
Well, I'd like to say something about place, but I look at the age group, but you talked to a lot of school teachers today in schools, and even from the younger, these school teachers and stuff are going through an awful lot. And so is that the root of where,
Our children's services are expanding quite a bit. We are really looking and focusing on the juvenile justice system right now. As you all know, detention centers were closed down a long time ago, and unless the kids were not put in there. And now the state's looking at, do we need to reopen some? And my goal is to work on that. I think the shocker for me when we started to really implement mental health into schools were kindergartners were tearing rooms apart.
Yeah.
And for some families, they have lived with it so long, that was norm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. They were so used to that. So then when their child went to school, that's just my kid.
Yeah.
And so we really want to make sure we're wrapping services around not only the child, but the family and work as a family union. And that takes some time. But then you also have to have services in there. And we do in-services with the schools to make sure we're supporting their staff because sometimes they don't feel like teachers anymore. They also feel like mental health providers. And so making sure we have some supports in there for them too. But that's right. That's why preventive work is so important. We try to catch them as early as we can. We have some preschool, what we call psychosocial groups, which are skill building groups that we have preschoolers. When, as long as they're potty trained, they are eligible to join that group. So we're just getting that started in life.
I want to thank you for coming in and presenting today, and we appreciate your time. No problem.
Did you get a chance to sign all those on?
I did. And I rechecked. So.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right. If we could have the Tri-County Fair come up and present with us.
Nick, how are you?
Sorry.
Nick.
We have to.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have one?
What you need, all should be good, and I think you want to continue. Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Nick.
All right, I'm representing the Tri-County Fair Board, Fair in Harrington. That's been going on for 77. This will be our 78th year. At the top of the page, they've got a list of the board members. 16 County is the largest majority of the board members, and the participants are noted back there. But a few of the concerns that we're working with in a good way, somebody said something about ball sports earlier today. sports are a big thing, 4-H, and those activities are becoming a big thing again as well. Our barns were at capacity this last year, so the beef were not able to all stay. Some of them had to leave, and the dairy animals were not able to stay. So none of them were on exhibit for spectators to be able to walk through the buildings and see, other than just during the show. So we're working on some things to try to help facilitate that this year. With everything, our barns and facilities are needing maintenance, continued maintenance. Last winter, we had one of the big poles that holds the lights at the rodeo arena go down, causing some damage to the facility. We're working with local energy company to get a new pole set, and as well as the city of Harrington to work with them on reconnecting stuff. The lights that we have had were beyond their life, to where getting parts for them has not been a successful thing for several years now. So we do have our stock contractor found of another municipality that had a rodeo that they'd set up 3 years ago, and due to lack of funding and interest, that rodeo association had to disband. So we were able to purchase some new arena lights at a fraction of the cost. So working on getting those in and hopefully set for this year's rodeo. There are other entities that use that facility. There's a saddle club, and 4-Hers use it to practice events as well. So we're looking forward to having some new lights, maybe not have some dark spots in that arena that we've had in the past years. But another thing that happened was our past board member worked on our roping chute for the rodeo arena. So it's got a new coat of paint and some tweaking to make it function just a little better than it had in the past. We have our financial summary there. Top of the second page. We're pretty small in comparison to a lot of things I know, but the fair could not survive without the other fundraisers and items that we do, and the support that we have from the counties and businesses, of course. Even with all that, without the help of the Lions Club, our insurance would not be possible to have the fair activities. Insurance has gotten to where we can't handle it. It's financially unattainable for our size of events. But the Lions Club and Woodbine has been able to get us coverage through the international organization that they are part of. So this year we have not done any checking, but last year they were looking at $25,000 to $30,000 in insurance. It's 40+% of what the fair costs to put on itself. So that's not feasible for us at all.
Is that just insurance for a week, or is that a year round, but it includes?
It's the event insurance.
Yep. A lot of that going around.
So you have an umbrella insurance for the rest of the time, or is the city responsible for the?
City owns the property, so that is insured under them if there has that insurance. The only insurance that we do is we get several bids, but Smart Insurance has a director's and officer's insurance on us in case something were to happen to one of us, or transporting money or something or what have you. That's the only coverage, but I think that's $700 roughly that we spend. It's a good protection for us to have that. So, along with the facilities maintenance, the bleachers are always a big thing for us. Those bleachers are only used 3-4 days a year. But 365 days a year of the weather sure puts a beating on them. So 2 years ago, we put on about $15,000 worth of new lumber, and that did a good chunk of what we were needing to do, but the rest of them are rapidly getting to that position too. And we're hoping that in 2026 that we have our boards all addressed. We were able to get through a local salvage business, some bleachers out of an old school. So we're looking to see what how that's gonna help with the area. But haven't got that far yet. So we are all volunteer board other than our manager, fair manager. She's volunteer too. The small stipend that she gets, it's pretty well just to cover some out of time that she's there. But our stats, like I mentioned previously, we actually did grow quite a bit this last year. This fair is open to anybody in the state of Kansas, 4-H FFA that's looking to participate. It is made to be your tune-up or your practice fair before going to your county fairs. Had 162 members from Mason County participate in that. And out of the 276, so you can see our county is very well represented. Increased our premium payouts by 19%. And our rodeo and demo did see an uptick some in attendance. Last year, in October of last year, we had our Halloween bash, which is a points circuit that we're hooked with other demolition derbies down in the Marion, McPherson, Newton area. And they run points and then it rotate. This will come back to us in a couple of years. We were the first one to have it for the little circuit. And it was a good success, I believe. They're pulling cars from, I don't know the exact number of counties, but there was 30 some cars there. Several coming over from the Joplin, Missouri area actually are coming in and getting into our fair and trying to get these points to be part of this deal. So we have started this year. We're using the fair entry application or website. That's what's used by most all the fairs in the area to do their entries. We're hoping that this will help with the 4-Hers and their families being able to enter the animals or exhibits and schedule those exhibits times, as well as the premium payouts, so that our fair manager doesn't have to pull her hair out trying to sort through the cards as much to figure out this person's owed this blue ribbon, this red ribbon, gets total and then finds out that they performed something else. Now they got to add that premium as well. So should help a lot with that. In February, we had Molly B perform 2 days, 2 nights, however you want to look at it. In February there, had over 400 people, multiple states, and several of them were at both performances. They bought tickets to both performances of it. Say polka band, but it's real.
It's bigger than that.
It's bigger than that, and she has quite the following.
I'll be quite frank, I don't know what that is.
It's a dance.
Okay.
Polka is a dance.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she plays multiple instruments
Pokemon,
and,
yes.
and so, I mean, it's kind of the real deal show. I mean,
Well, 400
Yeah.
attendees, it
Yeah.
sounds
It-
like you
Yeah.
brought the
Brought
crowd
my
in.
folks to it, so yes, yes.
Yeah.
You can get more events like that. I think that would be helping you guys out if it's possible. But
Yeah, we're trying. Molly and her husband are not going to tour in 26 in the area. So they do there's a polka cruise that they're one of the mainliners of. She's been on RFD TV a lot. One of the couples from Nebraska is a big follower of hers and goes to the RFD events and dances. So that's the second time that she's been here for us. We have seen her the off year. We did had a dueling pianos come. It didn't have the success that this did, so we're looking at. There's other performers in the polka industry that we're looking at seeing if we could bring something in like that in. But we have provide a meal at the event as well. So the fair board put together one of the meals, and then we had a like a German meal from the Woodbine Cafe on the second day. So, yep, I'm not a polka person, but it is very enjoyable. Molly, like he said, she plays half a dozen different instruments and
Now I go online, take a look.
I started to look into it.
yeah, definitely,
I want to have her out there at your place.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, headliner.
yeah.
Big one.
And we had our second annual ATV run this spring. This year it focused into the Harrington Woodbine area. So it covered a lot of miles in Dixon County. I don't know, we were up about 20 machines or so, but up 50 some people. So that was a good thing. And it was April 5th was a little cold. So we know some people that didn't come and attend because of the weather, but those that did had a great time. Fair dates are coming up. I did skip over it, but the past year here, we had parade judges represented by the county commissioners from 3 counties that are made up the Tri-County Fair originally. And that's a tradition that we're sure hoping that we can continue with. So,
Right, for you.
no,
It's kind of good.
I know Mr. Roller's done it, but I don't know if rock, paper, scissors needs played to see if he can do it this year or not, but we appreciate his.
It's Ron's district, so
Yeah,
I feel like it's appropriate that Ron made, but if he doesn't, we can talk
they
about
all cover each other.
Absolutely. So,
I was, to speak out here, I was really pleased with the parade. It was very long and nice parade. You have to, it's just welcome everybody to come to see that. That's really good. Morris County and Marion County were quite pleased too for the turnout and the number of participants in the parade.
Yeah.
It was hard to judge, let me tell you, because often find floats and things, you know.
yeah, so our fair is the 10th, 11th, and 12th this year. Our events are quickly getting on us. Due to the increase in numbers of exhibitors, the horse show has went to where it's not going to be during those days. It's the weekend before now, just because we are getting so many participants. So we think that's a positive thing. We wish we could tie it to the fair dates, but it just isn't fair to those participants to try to rush that day and not have the times that they need to have those horses perform as they should. So our funding request, we're requesting $12,000 this year to be looked at, and that'll assist with the 4-H and FFA costs, including the fair entries, application website deal that I mentioned. It's not a large fee, it's $500, but that is something that's new for us. The building improvements, and then hopefully in 2026, as I mentioned, to have new boards on all of our bleachers. So, is there any other questions?
I guess that'd be my question. So the increase in ask, is that to get your bleachers rebuilt and get all that taken care of?
Yep, it's to help with that, and we are presenting hopefully to the other counties and asking for assistance there again. We don't have the support from them that we've had from Dixon County for, I don't know when they first started, but I'm going to guess it's been the 70+ years that we've had from Dixon County's why this fair is still available to the kids and the spectators to come to it. So we hope that Marion and Morris will start looking at assisting in that more, and that's our goal as well, is to.
So I'll just ask the question, do you anticipate needing as much next year? Is this just to get something up to snuff the way you need it? Or is this going to be kind of what you guys need going forward? That'd be my question.
I think this is a larger ask to help with these event boards, but I don't see it being every year
Okay.
need a large amount like this. It is the materials only. Our labor's all.
And I only ask because it's doubling it or more than that. So I just want to make sure that we're conscious of that.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So you answered that. Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I think you guys do a good job and want to compliment you on that. And there's a lot of sweat equity goes into that. And we don't see that you guys put in a lot of labor and things like that. So it's nice you're trying to keep those communities together.
Absolutely.
And I will add, when we did the judging, I did talk to the commissioners with the city manager there. And he indicated that we all chip into this thing and let them know that there's a little bit of ownership from each county to come in here and help out. So
With that, one of those commissioners stepped up himself and donated a sizable amount to the fair last year. And I don't know that he'd been to the fair. He was, as Mr. Roller said, very pleased and very impressed with what we were doing there. So we appreciate that a lot.
Pretty smart move, to bring 3 commissioners to the
Yeah,
job.
cannot take credit for that. We have a great
That was a good idea.
board. So, yes.
Understanding your need and where you're wanting to go, I don't have an issue, and I think this is acceptable. I believe the other 2 would agree, so I appreciate you coming in today, and thanks for taking the time, and thanks
Thank
for
you.
doing what you do.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Tim, whenever you're ready. Come on up.
Tim Hamilton, Planning and Zoning. My proposed budget for 2026, Marcus and I got together and we found some line items that had been kind of in the mix for several years, never been used. So we decided to eliminate those as well as consolidate a couple of other ones, and we managed to shave off.
Yeah.
35.
We managed to shave off over 2.5% off my budget for 2026.
Okay. So let me get to that page, Tim, I apologize. Go ahead.
Okay, and yeah, you'll see that the last year, the zoning board mileage was high, but that was a fluke because it was the wind farm public hearings down in Harrington. And this year, you'll see we have a little bit of, we had our consultant come in to do some, assist us with some training with the planning commissioners that kind of bumped the travel training and registration, I think, up a little bit. But other than that, both of those are kind of outliers. We did manage, like I say, we're at shave off 2.67% from the consolidations and the elimination of a lot of extraneous line items that we didn't need. So.
Admittedly, it's a pretty, I think it's a one-man show in terms of the actual employees, right? So, not that I'm downgrading the job.
No, I know.
Pretty job, but it's pretty straightforward. Yes. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Tim? Or unless you had more, I mean, that is the budget.
No.
I don't have anything.
Just on your board, is it full now?
Yes, it's full board.
Okay.
7 members.
And that was one thing I know Tim had worked on, and there'd been discussion on this a few years ago, is trying to have a distribution throughout the county. And at one time, other than you don't want to turn down volunteers, but at one time there was more of a concentration
In the north.
in the north
Yeah.
and close to Abilene. And so it was very intentional to try to balance that out as vacancies occurred. So thank you for helping facilitate that.
And we do have the option now. It was clarified to me based on when I was looking at the bylaws. We do have the option in the future. It was be up to you all, but the state allows us to pull from the cities as well, as long as the majority of the membership is in unincorporated Dickinson County. So if we ever run into a situation where we can't find someone in unincorporated Dickinson County, we can always recruit to either Abilene or like 1 or 2 people.
Chaplain, Solomon, okay. All right, need to mention them all once you start. All of them.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your effort to try to do what you can on the budget. So thank you for doing that, Tim.
And I'd like to add just a couple of things here. With Tim involved with the county, he's also splitting, we're able to split the cost of Tim up with other counties. So we're thankful to have you here with us, but you're being efficient and effective with the costs because you're splitting your time up between Dickinson County and Saline County. And that helps both counties out, and we appreciate working that way.
And it's what they told me. They said they still like the arrangement. They're still working out for that too.
I will follow up and check on that.
Okay.
I think we would hear if it were different.
We definitely would.
You know, a lot of times, just the concept of trying to combine services or work together, it's efficient for both counties.
Yes.
And so, you know, this is an example where it works. It maybe wouldn't work for other types of positions or departments, but anyway, it does for this.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim.
Okay. Dispatch 911. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, Alyssa Boss, Emergency Communications.
How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Okay.
I am ready for a nap. It's been a very busy week. So
That's on page 24.
yeah, page 24 is where the majority of our budget is. And then our second fund is on page 72.
Thank you.
And I'm going to rely on Marcus very heavily for this presentation because I have never done a budget before.
All right.
So we're all learning as we go.
We do just fine.
So we've got a couple of things that we do have listed in our budget that, Marcus and I talked about that we are going to remove from there. We've got the advertising and contract services. Those are a couple of things that are not being utilized. And then miscellaneous IT expenses, that is actually getting moved over into IT because that is an IT expense. Let's see.
Looks like you moved capital outlay out of dispatch.
Capital outlay out of dispatch, because a lot of the things that we were pulling out of capital outlay can actually be paid for by that 2144 is what we call it. It's the 911 fee fund.
Okay.
We are very limited on the things we can spend out of that 911 fee fund, but
This happens to be one of them.
this happens to be one of them. So we are trying to be fiscally responsible and
Yes, I like that.
things where we can. Software and hardware maintenance, that's going. That is mostly IT handled and has been for quite some time. And then we did move $1,000 from that capital outlay into the public education, because educating the public about 911 and emergency response is extremely important. It is something that, we got to keep doing. It changes all the time. 10 years ago, you couldn't text 911. Now we get a lot of text to 911. And so the technology is constantly changing. And as it changes, the public may not be aware of the things that 911 is capable of doing. And so we want to make sure that they know what to expect when they call. So.
The only other line that we kind of discussed, we just met kind of again this week after I met with Emily previously, was the miscellaneous expense, which we are trying to limit miscellaneous more and more across a lot of the departments, just because we can find a specific line item. It's a little more transparent, leaves any questions out of it of what we're supplying there. Currently, we've been spending for purchasing supplies for the telecommunicators week and other, there's some support type items, training type items, other things of that nature that's been coming out of that for our communicators specifically. So I didn't have a really good parts and supplies or other type of line item yet to identify that. But we may be able to switch that into a different line to just make it a little more clear than the miscellaneous. But we did also go ahead and lower that budget. It had been increased to $6,000 prior to this, and brought that back down to $4,000. I think there was still, just in talking with Alyssa briefly, that there's still a lot of need for some support and educational items for our telecommunicators. So we want to make sure that we're still able to fund that. But I may try to find a line item that just fits that a little better than miscellaneous expense.
Okay, you had training coming out of the 911. That was my next. You need employees, so you're gonna have to do some training.
Yes, no, absolutely. And that training can definitely come out of that 2144 fund. And training, I'm sure the training expenses are going to look a little bit differently. We're going to have to outsource some of it.
Figured.
It's just
Yep.
the nature of.
No, kind of let me know.
I'm glad. But no, honestly, we're reaching out to everybody that we can, and we're utilizing our resources among the community. The state 911 board has a lot of excellent resources that we can lean on. And fortunately, I've worked very closely with several of those people for several years, and have had the pleasure of the last year being on as the government IT representative. So I have access to a lot of those things. So yes.
And if I'm correct, you guys work 12-hour shifts, correct?
Yes.
So for the public, we currently only have 6 dispatchers, and that's with the supervisor, correct?
6.5 with a trainee.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's a lot of work.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to get out there.
It's difficult to cover a 12-hour shift with that.
And for the public, it is I can't imagine the job of taking a call on something where you're hearing something going on, and you have to be a human being and then be professional about it. So.
Absolutely. And another thing that a lot of people don't necessarily understand is taking the call as one stress, but then having to completely calm down immediately after that. That is another stressor that a lot of people don't realize can actually be really impactful on a dispatcher, where you have to go from 0 to 90 back to 0. And so that can be really, really tough. And we do emphasize a lot of mental health when it comes to dispatching and that kind of thing. In fact, that's where a lot of that miscellaneous expense goes to, is ensuring that they have the resources available. We do workbooks and things like that to try to alleviate a lot of that stressor.
Very important, very necessary job.
Yes.
Very stressful. I don't want to call it dirty, but it's a job. It's one of them kind of jobs.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I did it for many, many years before I moved over into IT. So I'm very, very familiar with it.
It's kind of like our EMS crew and so on, and sheriff. I mean, there's some where someone on staff here can leave a message they're out of the office for the day or something like that, or in a meeting, and you guys have to be there
Absolutely.
in a few seconds to take the call and process it.
Yes, there are federal mandates on how fast you have to answer.
That's expectation too. I mean, it's just,
Absolutely. Yeah, in addition to the federal mandates, I mean, if I pick up the phone and dial 911, somebody needs to answer, and somebody needs to be able to give me the help that I need.
You're the first step in an emergency response. You are as much emergency responder as the people in the field, in my opinion. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but.
They're often referred to as the first responder.
Right, you're the first line.
Yes.
And the other part of that is you're trying to receive information from someone that is in a stressful situation that they haven't had maybe experience in, obviously, and you've got to somehow sort through that and get factual information, calm
Absolutely.
them down, and relay the information just all. So there's,
Yeah.
thank you for what you do, and certainly thank your staff. It's just
Yes.
amazing what they do.
I will absolutely relay that. They will appreciate that because they are the real workhorses. They are the ones that keep it going.
Well, let's look at your 911 budget.
Okay.
What page was that on?
That is on 72. So as of right now, we've got like the training, travel, and registration. That is really low right now. Typically, it is not that low, but that is a reflection of the short staff situation. We're unable to send people to training. And so, you know, while it looks like it's not something we are utilizing, it is definitely something we would love to utilize. We just have to, you know, have a few more bodies and chairs, but we don't want to force any bodies into chairs either. So it is a give and take on that one. The telephone and internet, those are all bills that come in from all the different providers in order to provide us the 911 lines. In addition to the dispatch center does have an internet service separate from the county so that the county IT department throttles the public Wi-Fi so that we're not utilizing up county resources that should be used by people that are working. And the 911 dispatchers, you know, they're in there for an awful long time. Having the ability to be able to access the internet in a room that does not get cellular signal is something that we feel is very important. Not only do they utilize it for keeping themselves entertained, but they also use it to further their education separate from their consoles. So it is something that I believe is very important. There's nothing worse than working a 12-hour shift at 2 in the morning and having nothing but local on the 8s to watch.
People a little bit of an idea, because I've been down there. I call it a command center. I don't know if that's what we call it or not. But you got about 8 screens, or I don't know how many you had, 5 or something. It's a bunch. And so you're using a lot of technologies, is what I'm trying to say.
No, that's a,
I don't know, I didn't even count. It was so many I didn't count. I was like,
and that's per
a
station.
wall of screens.
3 stations, 8 each.
Yeah.
So they have a lot to monitor
Mhm.
all the time.
They do. They absolutely do. Office supplies, you know, we have changed the way that we do office supplies in the county. You know, we more centralize that instead of each office being responsible for buying their own individual paper clips. The power of buying in bulk makes a big difference. So that's not something that we really have in our budget anymore. And contractual obligations, that is a lot of, most of that is to the state. So the state of Kansas has a hosted 911 system, and we have to pay for each seat on that 911 system. So we have what they call full positions. We have 3 of those. That is where each of the call takers sit at the command stations. We also have 2 soft positions, one in the supervisor's office and one in the director's office. And those positions allow the people that are sitting in those offices the ability to pick up calls as things get busy in there and can handle some overflow, and also to make calls and things like that. But they're not considered a full station because they don't have the mapping software that goes on with them. But we do pay the state for each of those seats per year.
You know, the 911 fund that we're discussing now, just kind of help clarify, this fund, we do get reimbursed for all. So anything that's coming out of this are all qualifying expenses to make sure that we actually get reimbursed for this amount. We go through a full audit where every year I work with the state and submit every invoice that comes out of this 911 fund here. And so that includes the training, the different contractual obligations. And so we only put anything here that would qualify for that. And usually I get 1 or 2 spit back at us that says, you know, this doesn't qualify. I think the chairs that they have down there are actually pretty expensive chairs that we can reimburse for those. But there was an anti-fatigue mat that did not pass the test, so it got kicked back out. So that's about $200, I think, that ended up having to go back to the dispatch fund. So outside of that, these funds, although it looks like a significant amount for training and contractual obligations, we do get reimbursed from the state for that.
I was gonna ask about the state thing. I'm like, they mandate us to provide this and then they make us pay them. It don't seem right.
So,
Portion of the 911 fees go for too.
And-
But I
and in
giggle,
reality,
I do that a lot, just so everyone knows.
the state hosted 911 system, we are not mandated to be on that system.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I can tell you that is a far less expensive alternative than doing it on our own.
Really?
Yes. So I remember when we were I was actually in the dispatch center when we moved over to the state hosted system, and Russ Wilkins was the director. And we were talking about our phone system was due to be upgraded. It was old, it was clunky, it was time. And the state hosted system was just in its infancy. And so we considered it. And I think the state hosted system was like 25% less than it would have been for us to go out and do it on our own. And as the state system grows, it's the power of buying in bulk. And not only that, it provides some really, really neat benefits. So we only have so many 911 lines available. I believe there's 7. I could be wrong. But when all of those are ringing and somebody else calls in, it doesn't mean they don't get to ring. It rings over to Saline County. Because we're on the state hosted system, it's an automatic failover. So if we're too busy, other counties around us, and we do the same for them, it rolls over into us. Let's say there was a few years ago a fiber cut up near Manhattan, and it took out this area's 911 systems. It took out us, Ottawa County, and a couple other people. Well, we were able to just roll them over to somebody else, and then they could send us the information and we can get the help out. So, it's
The line and emergency services goes down.
it's absolutely terrifying. But the fact that it can automatically roll over is a great insurance.
Saved us there.
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, I can easily transfer a call. Let's say I've got somebody on the interstate and they call in and they're calling for help. I can easily transfer it to KHP. I can transfer it over to Saline County and all of the information that comes along with that call, because you get things like location, phone number, and service provider, what tower they're hitting, all that kind of good stuff. It goes with it because they're all interconnected. Unfortunately, now, the way the state system is built, one fiber cut will not take us down. We actually have redundancy built in and things like that. So, yeah.
Infrastructure, that's not your control, but
Right before we were on the state hosted system, if it went down,
It went down?
well, I know from a company perspective, we have 2 lines too, and it's for that exact reason, in case one goes down. Because I know it's not an emergency, but we also don't want
You can't operate.
to turn the company off for a day, and it's not an option.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you just can't turn 911 off.
No. Commissioners, do you have any more questions?
I just have to compliment you on we had an emergency yesterday at Depp, and the folks in that area, Woodbine area, were amazed at how quick and responsible all the parties that were involved come down.
That is
We sure appreciate that.
wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
It's very well to hear that.
Yeah.
I do know that I had somebody else reach out to me and let me know that the call taker that took that was really excellent. And they have a wall down in dispatch where they have each dispatcher gets to pick a sticker theme of what they like. They pick an animal or something like that, and they have a branch on a tree, and we reward them with putting a sticker up when they do a good job, or take a tough call, something like that. So they get rewarded like that, and I intend on doing that with her because she did an excellent job on that call. Thank you.
I don't believe we have any more questions. Thank you for presenting your budget, and thank you.
Very much.
Sure you knew that. You did just fine.
Thank you.
I didn't even notice Marcus had moved.
Yeah. He was ready though. Okay, IT GIS. Morning.
Right Dustin Parks, the IT director.
We were talking about you.
So,
29.
my budget, yep, page 29. So, we don't have very many line items, and we're actually getting rid of a few, just because they kind of make sense to go in other places, so I'll kind of go through that. Starting with dues and memberships, we dropped that. Right now, we only really partake in organizations that kind of have what I'll call group membership. So like MSISAC and GMIS and the Kansas branch of GMIS. And one membership due allows our entire office to partake. So we're not really doing a whole lot of individual memberships anymore. So we dropped that down by $500. The travel budget, that's our obviously largest increase. And so prior to when Sherry left, the budget was about $15,000 for training. We're at the time learning a lot of systems, sending people out for those, and trying to take on more internal responsibility. After Sherry left, that budget dropped down. And then in 2024, our network administrator, who's now the IT or the 911 director, had some opportunities to go to national conferences and speak on behalf of kind of rural community. Doesn't necessarily mean you can't have secure environments and stuff like that. Those conferences and training events have tangible benefit for us because it allowed us to get services and even some hardware at a reduced rate. For example, we have, I've mentioned it before, we have a server called Albert, which is provided a 24/7 network monitoring, and we were able to make use of that because of the networking that happened for those conferences. There are only 200 facilities in the nation that have one of those, and not many of them, hardly any of them are rural. And so people seem to think that just because we're a small community doesn't mean we're under threat, and it's kind of the opposite. We're some of the easiest ones to get information from, and through small communities, sometimes they can gain access to larger facilities and systems. So that's why our budget increased there. Now that may fluctuate a little bit since, you know, the staffing has changed a little, but my intention is to try to take some of those networking responsibilities over for myself, if need be, but I'd still like to send our network administrator out to do that. So for telephone internet, we requested in 25, we actually increased that budget.
Real quick.
Okay.
I'm definitely on board for networking, getting better deals. I think that's a smart move. Do you think the increase is going to justify that?
I do.
Okay.
I
I just want to make sure if we're doing that for that reason, let's make sure we're making our ROI.
So I actually will be expanding on that in a little bit.
Okay.
And so we increased our in 25, we increased the internet bill because we were getting redundant internet. And so we're planning on that. That actually, hopefully, they have finally gotten the line installed to the server room. And then once the new firewall comes in, we'll actually be able to start taking advantage of that. That firewall is supposed to be delivered mid-July and installed. We're working with the contractor who was setting it up. We'll actually be on site to help finish that setup. That was going to be Alyssa, but with the change in staffing, we're bringing that contractor on site to do some of that stuff. So that's not changing, and we don't anticipate it really moving much. We were able to get larger speeds through Vive without increasing our bills. So we have this, most of our satellite locations, we tunnel our network traffic to, and they also have their own internet. And we were able to increase the speeds of all those without changing the cost for our monthly bills. So, and a lot of that was because we were able to take advantage of Twin Valley and then go to Vive and say, hey, they're giving us this for this reduced rate. What can you offer us? So we're going to get rid of office supplies and small equipment. There are some expenditures in there right now, but we're going to get rid of it because we already have a small office and computer equipment line item, and that tends to be where we buy stuff. So there's no increases there. Our contract software went down, and that's estimated. Again, I'll be able to cover that in a little bit more detail, but we're going to be no longer having a $36,000 a year bill from Dell for maintenance on our servers. And the reason it's not the full 36 is because we have to have some on-site licensing for when we replace the servers and some of our other softwares that we're going to manage in-house, but it allows us to reduce that amount. So we don't expect our contract software to go up at all for that. Then the small office and computer equipment, we requested the same amount. You'll see it's a little high right now. That's actually because that and software and hardware maintenance have a line item in there that's incorrect. Some replacement computers and then a maintenance contract got put into those, and Marcus and I have talked, and he's going to do a journal entry to kind of move those to where they're supposed to go, which is contract software and small and the capital outlay for replacing computers.
Okay.
And then consulting services, we did increase it, and that was actually mostly due to the Microsoft switchover. We knew we were going to have a consultant for that. And it's probably a good thing we did, because that same consultant who's helping us with the firewall, he's a networking specialist, and he'll help us with that Microsoft transition as well. He's very reasonable on his rates, and his company came really highly recommended. And again, we met this contact through one of those networking opportunities at one of the conferences. Otherwise, I mean, we were going to have to rely on, Vive charges us more. They're local. And, this guy has helped us on the phone. He spent hours with us on the phone, and he doesn't charge us for all of his time. I mean, it's kind of a small operation, but they're really good at what they do. So that kind of covers the budget. I know it's a lot to kind of soak in there. And I know that, the travel is a big one, a big increase. But I'm hoping to be able to explain, especially here in a minute, why I think that's feasible. So what question do you have?
I know we're talking about budget, but this is going back to last year, and you had done something that had saved us quite a bit of money. And I think it'd be helpful, especially because people are kind of listening in and following the budget. Because when we save money from a previous budget, that carries over.
Right.
And do you recall what I'm talking about?
So we had several kind of events that allowed us to do that. And one of them was the Albert server that we were talking about, because that Albert server was supposed to be about $25,000, $30,000. We got it for 16, but it also allowed us to stop one of our, what we call endpoint security, which is of antivirus per machine. It allowed us to stop that subscription. And then because we had that, it reduced the cost of one of our other services, and ended up saving us about $25,000, $30,000 in total. And then we've also started replacing some of the computers that we have. Instead of swapping them out, we've increased their warranties, so that we're not on a 2 to 3 year schedule, we're on a 3 to 5 year schedule for replacements. And we decided to do that last year, and this year is when we activated those warranties. And so we'll start seeing the benefits of that moving forward. It kind of takes our replacement computers down from, we had to replace close to 60, and we're down to 30 of those that we need to replace instead. So that saved us, at the time, roughly $18,000. So if you count $600 per computer, but those were some of the things we did that last year, and then foreshadowing for something for this year. So,
and a little bit the point I was trying to make is, we're looking at 2026. A lot of things can happen 6 months from now or a year from now when we're in that budget year. But just because we have something in the budget, if there's a savings or a change in direction that's going to be helpful, I appreciate that you and taking those opportunities to save some money. And just because it's in the budget, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be spent.
Yeah.
But we're trying to come up with a reasonable estimate or guesstimate.
I consider, when I look at these, I consider this as not just my cap, but this is what I have to work with. It doesn't mean I have to work with it all. So case in point, one of the biggest things, that Microsoft transition we're working on this year, we budgeted for that in contract software. We know it's going to cost close to $50,000. But because of some of the stuff we were able to work around, we're thinking we're going to get it at 35. We're not 100% sure, so we don't want to, put that out there as what we're budgeting for, but that's what we're shooting for. And a lot of that, again, falls back to some of the hardware upgrades we've made. And one of the biggest ones is taking the firewall in-house. And so by doing that, there's a potential for us to save. Right now, we pay about $15,000 to $20,000 a year. I say depending because we're adding a few people to that for our VPN software. So every single law enforcement officer in the county utilizes that system, and they call back for data from our end. But that costs money. Every one of those MDTs, mobile data terminals, the computers in their cars, has a license fee that we absorb, but Harrington, Abilene, and Chapman reimburse us for that license fee. But the sheriff's office and that, we're absorbing on that end. This new firewall will be able to handle a lot of that traffic, and we might be able to either drastically reduce or completely get rid of that subscription. That would save us $20,000. We're not 100% sure, but that's what we're working towards. So we try to do that with everything we can. There's been computers we've rebuilt instead of replacing because it saved, a couple $100. But if we had the equipment, why not? So, we do that 10 times. Now we've saved, our part of our travel increase. So that's how I try to approach everything we do in that office.
Some of the expenses throughout the year too, I believe Tyler Technologies and now I think the new company Palantir, or those for different entities. How do they fit into our county picture?
Our big expenditures like Tyler software is a huge one. That's law enforcement for the most part. And that we pay Tyler $80,000 a year for software. That's access, maintenance, customer service. They handle when we do data migrations, upgrades, and that kind of thing. So we pay a lot for access to that service. But like I said, every one of our law enforcement agencies utilizes it. And it's a record-keeping software. CIC is another one. We pay CIC $60,000, $65,000 a year for access to their stuff. And that's actually a really good transition because we host the Tyler software and we host the CIC software and information locally. That saves us money. But that's where the servers come in. And I know I've mentioned before, we talked about upgrading the servers next year for about probably $340,000 if you account for inflation and tariffs. I've got more solid numbers that I'd like to discuss today if possible, because there's an opportunity we have to potentially save quite a bit of money. So I'd like to be able to try to go over that really quickly if I could, but I don't know if you want to do
About 11 minutes.
So any other questions on the regular budget? Okay. So I will try to shorten this up, and I'm happy to stay and talk about it more. But first things first, I'm going to show you or provide you guys some paperwork. It's all about bringing the seats. So what you're looking at is a photo of one of our server racks. The red highlighted area is the pieces of machinery that we need to replace by next year. So what you're looking at is the bottom two devices that say Dell EMC. Those are what we call our host servers. Think of those as extremely powerful desktop computers. Above that, there's two devices that say Dell EMC, and kind of in that weird little silver symbol says Unity. Think of those as very advanced external hard drives. Okay. For example, those servers, a desktop computer has a processor that may have 4 gigahertz and 32 gigs of RAM on the high end. We have 2 terabytes of RAM. That's 2,048 gigs per server. And up to 128 cores of use and 4 gigahertz per core. And the reason for that is those are essentially what we call virtual machines. That's why they're called hosts. They host a whole bunch of virtual machines. And every one of those virtual machines saves us from physical hardware. And the reason we have 2 is redundancy. When one fails, because sometimes they go down, sometimes they have updates, etc., the other one automatically picks up and takes over. 911, most of 911 is run off of these. Tyler software is run off of these. CIC is run off of these. Almost every ounce of county infrastructure is run off of these virtual machines. Now, below that, you'll see kind of at the very bottom, there's another Dell, and then there's kind of a chunk of equipment beneath that. That's our other server. That is a Lenovo server. And it picks up the load. We have a total of 54 virtual servers and machines, and that picks up 14 of them. So that said, the paperwork I handed you has that picture and then has a couple more pages too. So the page right behind that is the quote we got from Dell for replacing them. And I was about $4,000 off our estimate. So for replacing those Dells with Dells, you're looking at $288,000. That does not include migration, licensing, or anything. That is just the hardware. When we talked, I had estimated about 280 and then 340 for licensing, migration, taxes, etc. So that is the Dell quote. It is in line with what we expected. I also had told you that we were going to try to reach out and work some resources and networking, and this is where some of that networking from our conferences comes in, to get a quote from Lenovo, because we have some resources with Lenovo. Most of our computers on desktops in the courthouse are Lenovo. Almost all of our laptops are. Lenovo's a good workhorse. They're inexpensive, and their customer service and warranty are fantastic. So we hoped to be able to get a good comparative Lenovo quote. So we leveraged a lot of our networking and people. And that bottom number is a straight piece of equipment for piece of equipment comparison. Lenovo built the exact same system minus names and a few proprietary stuff Dell has for us. That is a 70% discount from the Dell quote. So we were initially going to handle migration of the servers, moving servers over, but again, our network administrator. So we asked just to see what migration services that Lenovo provides. So what I'm going to present now is a spreadsheet. It's a comparison line for line of the quotes from Lenovo and from Dell. And what I've done is stick pages together. What I've done is anything we didn't have a quote for from Dell, I used Lenovo's numbers because I figured if the equipment is the same, then we can at least know it's going to cost at least that much from Dell. So we literally got the quote from Lenovo this morning for migration services. And what that means is every one of those virtual computers that we have right now needs to move to the new servers, regardless of which ones we go. And to do that, you have to shut them down, move the data, and turn them back on and make sure that they're set up in the new environment. It sounds like unplugging and plugging your computer back in, but it's more like doing it in the dark and hoping you hit the right outlet. Because it can go smoothly, but the odds are you're going to stub your toe and plug something, unless you know exactly what you're doing and you've got that hardware. So we got the quote about 9:30 this morning from Lenovo for what it would cost for migration services. In total, if we went with the Lenovo solution, $181,420. That is $100,000 less than the Dell quote for just hardware. That Lenovo quote includes them coming in, installing it, setting it up by hand, making sure everything works, and handling the entire migration of data. All of it. We have to babysit. And what I mean by that is we have to be available if they have questions. That's it. They'll handle everything else. The licensing in yellow, we have to get that regardless if we go with Dell or Lenovo. And that's kind of an estimate. That's probably on the lower end. So I would expect that to maybe go up a couple $1,000s, but not by much. So in the end, from my original $340,000 guess, the Dell quote is about $3,000 less than that. The Lenovo quote's $158,000 less than that.
So I did ask Dustin if we did it ourselves, the network migration timeframe, what that would look like. It's not pretty.
No, I wouldn't.
Even Alyssa would have to learn how to do it.
Exactly.
Because she doesn't handle server migration. You know, we paid Tyler to migrate the Tyler data to new servers, right? And we would all have to spend time learning it. And the other thing is we'd be on the hook if the data got lost. With this, that's covered under Lenovo.
That was what I was gonna ask.
So we are not liable for mitigation problems. They fix the problems and they can do it live so that our current servers stay running and they can migrate the data and move it. And then if something happens, our current servers are still viable and good.
So what's our timeline? Is this something you want on the agenda or is this something?
So that's the downfall. Dell quote, they knew we were looking at January. Lenovo said if we can do it by September. And that's purchase. It doesn't mean install, it doesn't mean set up.
It's capital LA, but
Capital, Marcus, what do we got in capital?
Sorry, so we're currently, our current balance in capital outlay is about $2.2 million capital outlay.
Where are we at with our highway project?
That comes out of a different one.
It does.
Yep.
Okay, just to make sure.
And we have been somewhat anticipating some server upgrades in anticipation. So we're setting aside some over the last few years for the server migration. It's just,
It was more maintenance.
yeah, it was more related than the actual costs.
What's he gonna do if we do it this year instead?
I think, and I can give you a better analysis by next week. I think there's, in my opinion, we can cover the expense. I think it's one of those that we can't ignore. It's not
$100,000.
Yeah, right.
That's great work.
For
You
every.
paid for your 8. I'll take notate it.
As we review the capital here in the next upcoming weeks,
Yeah.
we'll kind of look at what that means. And if we have to do some sort of preparation for the upcoming years to recover some of that funding, we could possibly do that to make sure we're still covered on our additional equipment needs in the upcoming years. But I think we have the capability to take on an expense like this.
Why don't we, well, I can't sit.
You have
Why don't we-
information so we could
You want to do
consider it next week
Fine, I don't
without
wanna
any
wait too long.
problem, is that?
Well, and I can, yeah, and so I guess on the financial side of it, based on what we have, the 2.2 million currently in capital, and we are expecting an additional or a total of about $500,000 to come out this year. I think we're still going to end the year close to 1 actually probably closer to 2 by the time it's all said and done, because we've already spent about 2.5. So I feel very comfortable that this expense could take place in this current year. And then what we'll really do is, so there's conversations coming up in the next couple of weeks. We'll discuss what the appropriate balance is for that equipment reserve moving forward and making sure that we're covering all those expenses.
We're running out of time here. Why don't we go ahead and plan on having this on our regular meeting agenda?
Just for discussion, or do you want to,
discuss or do you wanna go through?
or do you want a week to prepare if that doesn't delay anything?
I do have some additional information about what it covers. It's not something we have to decide today, but it is something we need to.
So why don't we get you back in for,
Well, I think stay for the regular meeting and add it to the
why
agenda.
don't we do that?
And then as Marcus is looking at,
Get some, yeah.
I'll just stick around.
you can give a recommendation if you think we
I
can.
guess my plan B, come work session, and I think we'll probably get a better idea by that point. Maybe we can add it to the agenda that day.
Next week.
Oh,
Sure. Would that be?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you bring what you had, your other concern, and then
Yep, we can do that.
we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin.
Looks like a, thanks for the research on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Call this meeting to order. If we'd all rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the agenda today. Only thing we actually have on the agenda today is resolution 061225 and is a reappointment of Lisa Berg as county appraiser. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Consent agenda is minutes as provided in your packet, commissioners, of June 5th meeting. Expenditures of $489,524.90. Hand checks of $450. SD security wire of $4,104 and indigent defense of $17,400. Do I hear a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. I'll slow down, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Moving on to commissioner comments and committee reports. Why don't we start on the far end with Mr. Ron?
Okay, thank you. I did spend a little time yesterday afternoon at the Detention Center in Junction City. We'll be meeting in Clay Center on Wednesday on some more information on this detention center. Everything's going well. A lot of people are out on vacation right now, so they're a little short staffed, but things are looking okay.
Thank you, Ron.
I was able to attend, as many people were, the Symphony at Sunset that the Eisenhower Presidential Library put on. An amazing event. They honored veterans, tied in with D-Day, and they had things throughout the day, but it was very, very well attended. But also, it was free to the public, and so they just needed to bring a lawn chair. And then there were several vendors that were around there, and so some income being generated, but it's just very, very festive, and it was a great day for that. And then here in about a week, I'm going to be visiting with the representative Tyler Kemp from Senator Marshall's office, and had some things to kind of go over with him. He handles veteran affairs, but also he is on the staff of Senator Marshall. And so anyway, looking forward to that visit with him.
It should be worthwhile. I don't have much to report this week. I've continued to work with the EDC to find a replacement director for that organization. We have got the talent consultant hired. His name is Jim Fram. He's from Columbia, Missouri. Which we had a little contention on that. I went to KU, just so everyone knows. But we moved past it. I'm really excited. The board's excited. I think everyone's on board. I feel like we rejuvenated our direction and objective, and we're going to get that executed. I'll have updates as we continue along. Anything else to report? No. All right, seeing no presentation or petitions or proclamations, we'll move on to public comments. If County Administrator Janelle Dockendorf will review it.
Per the Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4317 and 75-4318A, as the elected board, the county commission is not allowed to meet or make any decisions without posting the meeting. They are only allowed to act on items on the agenda which they set. During their regular meeting, the county commission may allow for public comments on items not listed on the approved agenda. It is at the discretion of the county commission if they allow comments on agenda items. If you wish to provide comments, please come forward to the podium and state your name and address. If you are online, raise your hand and we will unmute you. Please state your name and address. Each person may speak for 3 minutes. The allotted time will start after the speaker has given his or her name and address. Public comments shall be addressed to the county commission only and not to the speaker or the audience. Only the county commission will be permitted to ask the speaker questions. The public comment period is not a back and forth discussion with the county commission. You should make your views and input known to them, but it is not a time to ask them questions. You should not expect them to respond to your comments. Comments may express support or agreement with the previous speakers, but in the interest of time, please do not repeat the same information. You may state something to the effect of your name and address, and you agree with the previous speaker. It is important to maintain a respectful, non-threatening atmosphere for anyone who would like to speak. Please do not engage in such actions as cheering, booing, clapping, insults, threats, etc.
Thank you. Don't believe we have any comments. I'll give it a little bit more time, but I don't think we do. Moving on to report from county officers. We'll start with County Administrator Janelle Dockendorf.
Commissioners, we do have an open emergency communications director position. We have temporarily filled that. Alyssa Boss will be the interim director. We do have open positions in dispatch, as we heard during the study session. Public Works Department will start paving Old 40 from Abilene to Solomon on Monday, June 16th. This will be one lane. They'll be flagged and a pilot car, so just be prepared for some delays. But hopefully, weather permitting, paving can start and we can get that done quickly, or as quickly as possible. The county appraiser has been participating in compliance webinars by the Property Valuation Division of the state. And we still continue to work with the insurance company on the health department with the hail damage. So hopefully we'll be able to get that finalized and repaired before too long. So,
Okay.
any questions for me?
I do not have any commissioners.
I'm good.
Move on to County Councilor Doug Thompson.
Well, thank you. I've been involved with the drug court. Yesterday, we had a graduation, and that's always a good event. And so that went very well. And the Junction City program, the Geary County, I should say, the Geary County program is beginning to grow, and it's doing very well. And Judge Rozier and I will find a date that works for the tax sale. And we'll do that just as soon as we can get our time frame to be able to make it work. And that's what we've got. That's all I've got.
Okay, so no date yet on tax sale.
No, not a date yet. There'll be one pretty soon. Judge Rozier covers not only Geary County, but expands out from there. And so we're going to find a date that'll work. But however, the good news is that the numbers of individuals who have paid their past due taxes is significant. So I'm anticipating we'll have a much less numbers for the sale. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, we have no notices or communications, but we do have the introduction of resolution 061225 of the reappointment of Lisa Berg. Commissioners, you have this resolution in your packet. And it reads as following: the resolution appointing Dickinson County appraiser pursuant to KSA 19-430, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners to pursuant to KSA 19-430, the Board of County Commissioners must appoint by resolution a county appraiser for the period of 4 years commencing July 1, 2025. And be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners does hereby appoint Lisa Berg to act and perform as the Dickinson County appraiser, commencing immediately and continuing through the 4-year term beginning July 1, 2025. That as Dickinson County appraiser Lisa Berg shall be subject to the same rules and regulations as a Dickinson County employee, with annual performance and salary reviews and benefits as detailed within the Dickinson County Employee Handbook. It is so resolved. I'll open it up for discussion before the motion.
Well, it's something procedurally, and we're very fortunate to have an appraiser that's well trained, but does well with the public and very knowledgeable. I'd make the motion that we adopt the resolution 061225 to have her reappointed, continue on Lisa Berg as appraiser.
So moved.
I'll second.
Seconded by Ron. All those in favor, any more discussion? Sorry. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Welcome back, but I don't know how to say it.
Congratulations. And we need one. Just one copy on that is all we need to sign.
It should be fine.
Yeah, it's in our packet.
Okay, as long as we just get it signed in blue.
Line copy, I put it in there for us.
Great.
Commissioners, before we get, before you adjourn, there is a question about the election canvas for the primary.
Okay.
So tentatively, I think, well, we are looking at August the 14th, right after the county commission meeting, or it'd be at 1 PM.
Okay.
That's what Jennifer had kind of recommended. So just wanted to see your thoughts on that. So it's the second Thursday of the month.
Being as how Jennifer is our elections officer, I believe we should follow her lead on this.
Okay.
That would be my opinion.
Yes, I'm for following her lead on that. You say, what is the date on that again, please?
Thursday, August 14th. So I wanted to confirm if you were available or not, because, you know, we're right before school starts, finalizing some vacations and whatnot. So just kind of see. Okay.
I believe I am out of town.
Okay. And we'll find,
And then actually, unless I'm looking at my calendar wrong, I am in, no, let me, want to make sure that was the date.
you could have somebody
I
else.
slipped it back here.
Okay.
I will, actually, I will be in town.
You will be here? Okay.
But I will be missing August 7th.
Okay. I have noted that you're gone on that day, so I just wanted to confirm that. So, and that's fine. And even if we held it on the 14th, we could have somebody sit and participate as,
We're doing our budget.
I don't know if we've set the budget hearing yet.
We haven't set the budget hearing. It will depend on,
Can't do it that day.
No, we can't do
it
that.
would be after the August 20th anyway, so it would, I believe.
Okay.
You could do it the 27th, or you could do it the 21st or the 28th, sorry.
Just for review, we're mandated to have that prepared by.
You have to have the hearing set by August 15th.
Okay.
And then
Go from-
after that.
That's what I knew, there was one day we had to meet by.
Yeah, and depending on what occurs with the revenue neutral rate, which we'll have some updates in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
It also depends on if we hold a revenue neutral rate hearing or not. So if you have pulled the revenue neutral rate hearing, then it will change our budget timeline slightly, but if we just hold the budget hearing, then we could still hold it. August 20th.
Seems like it might work.
I think so. And Marcus provided you a sheet for you to review, and then we can discuss it in better or more detail.
Okay, and then we're going to hold on to this information that Dustin presented, and that'll probably be next week's agenda.
My thought was at least have it for work session, and if we came to, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to me, but I think he said he had one concern he wanted to bring up. Sure. Again, so before we add it, let's hear that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that motion. Any last discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I
Aye. Adjourned.